A very good afternoon to everyone. So I'm launching technical poll. Let me know my audio is clear and my screen is visible. So today we are going to discuss environmental issue. And the major issue which the environment is facing is the pollution. So the pollution, they are the undesirable change in any physical, chemical, or the biological characteristics of air, land, water, or soil. So these are the undesirable change or the unwanted change in the physical, chemical, or the biological properties of air, land, water, or soil. And we call it as pollution. And the agent that brings this undesirable change, those agents, they are known as pollutant. And then act is proposed in 1986, and that act is known as the Environment Protection Act. This act is proposed in 1986 to protect and improve the environment. So today we are going to discuss different type of pollution: air pollution, water pollution, solid waste. First, we're going to start with the air pollution. So there are two types of pollutant. One is a primary pollutant and the second one is secondary pollutant. So the pollutant which are directly released into the atmosphere or which are directly released into the air, those are known as the primary pollutant. For example, carbon monoxide, NOx, which are the nitrogen oxide, SOx. These are the sulfur oxide. So these are directly released into the atmosphere, like when the incomplete combustion occur, then carbon monoxide and hydrocarbons are formed. Through the automobile, the nitrogen oxides are released into the atmosphere. From the thermal power plant and from the industries, the sulfur dioxide is released into the air. So all these are the primary pollutant because they are directly released into the atmosphere. Second one is the secondary pollutants. Secondary pollutants are those pollutants which are formed by the reaction of two or more primary pollutant. For example, PAN. PAN is a peroxyacetyl nitrate. PAM are formed when the photochemical oxidation of NOx or the nitrogen oxide occur, then the PAM is formed. There are gaseous form of pollutant also, and there are particulate matter also. Gaseous form like carbon monoxide, there's NOx. There's SOx, which are sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides. And the particulate matter. This could be a suspended particulate or settable particulate. Suspended are those whose size is less than 10 micrometer. Because they are very small in size, so they can easily suspend in the air for a week. But settable particles whose size are more than 10 micrometer. If they're having a size more than 10 micrometer, that means they are larger in size as compared to suspended particles, and they can settle within a day. So the most harmful one are the suspended particulate, because these are suspended in the air for a week, and when we inhale these suspended particles, which when enter our body, or they affect the lungs, they causes the damage or the inflammation and the irritation of the lungs and causes the respiratory disorder. Suspended particles, they have a harmful effect on the respiratory system. According to the Central Pollution Control Board, which is CPCB, the particulate size is 2.5 micrometer or less in diameter, are responsible for causing the greatest harm to the human health. Remember this, the particulate size particulate matter size, when it is 2.5 micrometer or less in diameter, they are responsible for causing the greatest harm to the human health, because they are very less in size. They can easily enter our lungs. They can cause us the damage to our lungs. So they cause a harmful effect to the human health. There are certain measures could be taken to control the air pollution. Number one is the electrostatic precipitator, and the second is the scrubber. This one is the electrostatic precipitator, and this is the scrubber. So in electrostatic precipitator, there are electrode wires are present, and these electrode wires, they release they discharge corona. They release negatively charged electrons, and when these negatively charged electrons, they come in contact with the dust particles, they impart the negative charge to these dust particles. And here you can see these lines, these are the collecting plates which are grounded. So when the dust particle, they passes through these collecting plates, these dust particles, they get settled or they get attached to the collecting plate. So in the end, we are getting a clean air. 99% of the particulate, they are removed by the electrostatic precipitator. Remember this. And the scrubber, they are generally used in a thermal power plant. So this is the entry point where the dirty air is entering the scrubber. And the scrubber, they are generally used to remove the sulfur dioxide gas. Okay, so when the exhaust gas from the thermal power plant is passing through the scrubber, here is the spray of lime water. And lime, they are calcium carbonate. So when the exhaust gas from the thermal power plant, they're passing through the scrubber, the sulfur dioxide come in contact with the lime, and lime is a calcium carbonate. So the calcium sulfate is formed, and calcium sulfate, it form a precipitate. So the scrubber, remember this, that it helps in the removal of the sulfur dioxide gas. It's important, okay? Remember this. Next, we are going to discuss the control of the automobile exhaust. Mostly the nitrogen oxides, they are released from the automobiles. And in automobiles, there are catalytic converters are present. These catalytic converters, they help in the complete oxidation of the gases. Like, we know that the carbon monoxides and hydrocarbons, they are generally formed due to the incomplete combustion of the fuel. So the complete oxidation of this hydrocarbon and carbon monoxide and even the nitric oxide can be done by the catalytic converters which are present in the automobile. And these catalytic converters, they convert the hydrocarbons into the carbon dioxide and water, and carbon monoxide and nitric oxide into carbon dioxide and nitrogen gas respectively. So they help in the complete oxidation. And these catalytic converters, they get inactivated if the petrol or the diesel, they contain lead. So it is important to use a lead-free petrol or the diesel. Otherwise, these catalytic converter, because they contain catalyst, and the catalysts are platinum, palladium, and rhodium. So in the presence, if the petrol and the diesel, they contain lead, then these catalysts, they become inactive. And when they become inactive, the catalytic converter won't be able to work, and these hydrocarbons and the carbon monoxide and the nitric oxide, they are going to directly release into the atmosphere and will cause the air pollution. So the automobile should contain the catalytic converters so that complete oxidation can occur, and the car, instead of hydrocarbon, carbon monoxide, nitric oxide, the carbon dioxide and the nitrogen gas can be released, which are the harmless gases. Next, we are going to discuss is the noise pollution and its control. So the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act came into force in 1981. Remember this, that this act came into force in 1981, but some modification or the amendments are occur in 1987, where the noise is included as the air pollutant. Remember the air. It's very important, okay? Whether it's a water Water Pollution Act, whether it's an Air Pollution Act, whether it's an Environment Protection Act, remember the years. These are very important. So the noise is the undesired high level of sound. And the noise is measured in decibel, which is dB, denoted as dB. So the normal intensity of the sound for the normal conversation is 30 to 60 dB. But this noise can become unbearable at 140 dB. These noise, they can cause psychological and the physiological disorder in the human beings. They can cause sleeplessness, they can cause increased heartbeat, they can alter the breathing pattern, and they also cause stress in the humans. So some measure has been taken to control the noise pollution. Number one is the use of the sound absorbent material. Second one is that prohibited areas or the horns free zone should be made around the hospitals and the school. Third one is the permissible sound level of the crackers and of loudspeaker. That means the loudspeaker, should be allowed to play it for a certain time. Okay, a time duration should be given. After the time period is over, the loudspeaker cannot be played. Okay, so a specific time duration should be given for the events or for the function. This is how we can reduce the noise pollution. Next, we are going to discuss a case study regarding the air pollution. So in 1990, Delhi was ranked the fourth amongst the 41 most polluted cities of the world. Now you can imagine how polluted the Delhi is. So the government has taken some measure to reduce the air pollution in Delhi. They shifted the public transport from diesel to the CNG, which is a compressed natural gas. Okay, so all the buses of Delhi, buses that are the public transport of Delhi, were converted to run on the CNG by the end of 2002. Remember this. It's important, okay? And why they have chosen the CNG? Because CNG, it burns more efficiently in the automobile. Very little of it is left unburned. It is cheaper. It cannot be, कोई चोरी से चुरा नहीं सकते, right? And इसमें आप कोई मिलावट नहीं कर सकते. That is adulterated. So it cannot be siphoned off by the thieves, and it cannot be adulterated like the petrol or the diesel. And certain other measures apart from the CNGs are also taken by the government to reduce the air pollution in Delhi. Number one is the phasing out of the old vehicles. Number two is the use of unlead petrol, so that the catalytic converter, they can work efficiently. Use of the low sulfur petrol and diesel. Use of the catalytic converters in the vehicle. Application of the stringent. Stringent means strict pollution level norms for the vehicles. So these are the certain measures which are taken by the government to reduce the air pollution in Delhi. Next, we are going to discuss is the water pollution. So any undesirable change which affect the physical, chemical, and the biological characteristics of the water, they all are considered as water pollution, because any unwanted substance in the water, they are making the water unfit for the drinking, and this is what we call water pollution. So the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 9, it was introduced in 1974 to safeguard our water resources. Remember this. These acts, they're important, okay? As you can see in the image, there 99.9% is the water and 0.1% is the impurities, which included the suspended solid, example, sand, silt, clay, colloidal material like fecal matter, bacteria, cloth, paper, fiber. Dissolved material could be nutrients. It could be nitrate, ammonia, phosphate, sodium, calcium. These all are come under the impurities, or which causing the water pollution. So domestic sewage is the most common source of the pollution of the water body. Domestic sewage is the sewage which is coming from our household, right? Or our home. So it's the most common source of pollution of the water bodies. And you know, when the pollution increases, or when the organic matter in the water body increases, the BOD increases. BOD is a biological oxygen demand, because now the organism, the aerobic organism, now they required a large amount of the oxygen to degrade this organic matter. Because now we know that yesterday I told you that decomposition requires oxygen, right? So the microbes, they require the large amount of oxygen to degrade or to decompose this organic matter. So as the pollution rises, or as the organic matter rises in the water body, the demand of the oxygen also increases. That means the biological oxygen demand also increases. You can see in the graph, when the sewage is discharged, this blue line, which is showing the BOD, which is a biological oxygen demand, it is also increases. But slowly it is coming down. That means the level of the organic matter has also reduced. So the BOD is also decreases and the dissolved oxygen increases. Okay. Remember this relationship, it's important. Okay. Well, remember this, that when there's a pollution, when there's a large amount of organic matter in the water body, the level of the biological oxygen demand also increases. Next, we are going to discuss the algal bloom. So the presence of large amount of nutrient in the water bodies, they causes the excessive growth of the algae, and which is known as algal bloom. The algae, they impart a distinct color to the water bodies. As you can see, the water body, they are all appearing green in color because the algae is growing. And when the algal bloom occurred, first it reduces the quality of the water and it causes the fish mortality, because when the algae, they are growing in an excessive amount, when they are when the growth of the algae occurs, they rob the oxygen which are present in the water bodies. So now when they rob the oxygen, that means the less amount of oxygen is present in the water bodies. So the fish, they start dying, they start starving because of the oxygen. They feel suffocated and it leads to the fish mortality. Some bloom forming algae are extremely toxic to the human beings and the animal. There's a Iconia crescipes, which is commonly known as water hyacinth. It is also known as the terror of Bengal because it's an aquatic weed. It can grow to a large level in the water bodies, and they can cause imbalance in the ecosystem. Next, we are going to discuss is the biomagnification. But before that, I tell you that the sewage which are coming from our home as well as from the hospital, they should be treated, because sometimes they contain the harmful pathogen which can cause the disease like cholera, jaundice, dysentery in humans. And the waste which is coming from the industries like the chemical industry, metal industry, paper industry, they all releases a large amount of heavy metals into the water bodies, which could be mercury, cadmium, copper, lead, etc. Like mercury poisoning, it causes a disease called Nemamata. Lead poisoning, it causes a disease called plumbism. Okay, remember these. Now let's discuss the biomagnification. Bio means living and magnification means increase, right? So biomagnification is referred to the increase in the concentration of the toxicant at the successive trophic level. For example, this is a soil and here the plants are growing, right? And the DDT was applied on the plant. We know that this DDT is non-biodegradable. So these DDT from the plant, they can enter into the soil, right? And when the soil washed off, these DDT, they enter into the water body. And now we know in the water body, the phytoplanktons are present, right? So the DDT will enter into the body of the phytoplanktons. When phytoplanktons are eaten by the zooplankton, now this DDT amount get double and will reach to the zooplanktons. We know zooplanktons are eaten by the small fish are eaten by the large fish, and large fish are eaten by the birds. So You can see this, the level of the DDT is increasing. At each successive trophic level, there's an increase in the concentration of the toxicant, that is the DDT. So the birds, they have the maximum amount of the DDT. And this DDT in the birds, they disturb the calcium metabolism of the eggshell, because of which the thinning of the eggshell occur. And when the thinning of eggshell occur, it causes the premature hatching. And because of the premature hatching, it's caused the death of the bird. So this DDT is causing a decline in the bird population. Remember this, it's important, okay? That DDT, it disturbs the calcium metabolism in the bird, it causes the thinning of the eggshell, and it causes the decline in the bird population. Okay, it's important. Next, we are going to discuss is eutrophication. Eutrophication is the natural aging of the lake by nutrients of its water. You can see in the image. There's a natural aging. One is a natural eutrophication, and the second one is the culture eutrophication. So in the young lake, the water is cold and clear, right? And with the time, the streams, they are draining into the lake. They introduce the nutrient like nitrogen and phosphorus. So when the nitrogen and phosphorus, they are naturally entering into the water bodies, they encourage the growth of the aquatic organisms, right? The growth of the aquatic organism increases, the growth of the plants also increases. But after some time, you will observe that the sediment start deposited in the lake. So it leads to the shallowing of the lake. Wait, let me show you in the image. Here you can see the water content is more in this lake, but there's a natural aging is taking place. You can see the sediment get deposited. It leads to the shallowing of the lake. So this is a natural eutrophication. But the eutrophication can be accelerated when the fluent from the industries, which contain a high amount of the phosphate or the nitrate, they are entering into the water bodies. And when these influent from the industry, they're discharged into the water body, they causes the excessive growth because of the plants, of the algae and the aquatic organism, because these effluents, they contain the large amount of the phosphate and nitrate, right? And we know that if the algae are growing in a very large amount, they will cover the entire water surface, right? And they will rob all the oxygen present in the water bodies. So the fish, they start dying. So this is known as a cultural eutrophication or the accelerated eutrophication, because the discharge from the industries into the water body, they accelerate the eutrophication. That means they are accelerated the aging of the water bodies. Now there's a case study regarding the water pollution. Initiatives are taken by the people of town of Arcata. They collaborated with the biologists of the Humboldt State University, and they created an integrated wastewater treatment process within a natural system. Their cleaning process occurs in 2 stages. The first stage includes the sedimentation, filtration, and chlorine treatment. But after these 3 treatments, still the water, they contain the heavy metals. So this water containing the heavy metal is passed through a 60-hectare marshland. And this marshland, which consists of 6 marshes, they consist of organisms like plants, algae, fungi, and bacteria. So when the water containing the heavy metal is passed through these 60-hectare marshland, these organisms they help in the neutralization, absorption, and assimilation of these pollutants. So the water which is coming out of the marshland is purified naturally. So here they are using a living organism, or they are using a biological organism to remove the heavy metal from the water. Next we are going to discuss is the solid waste. Solid waste, they are discarded or leftover solid material produced due to the human activity. There are various types of the solid waste. Could be a municipal waste, industrial waste, hospital waste, hazardous waste, or the electronic waste. So now let's discuss the disposal of waste. Number one is the collection and characterization of the waste. First, we have to collect the waste and we have to characterize it, whether it's a biodegradable, whether it's a non-biodegradable, whether it's a recycling one. So you have to characterize the waste. Second one is, okay, if the waste, they are biodegradable, so you can easily put that waste into a pit in the ground and left it for natural degradation. But if the waste is non-biodegradable, then they are transported at a disposal site. And at the disposable site, they could be recycled. And we can also reduce these waste by using their by using them less, right? For example, plastic, we can reduce the use of the plastics. Second, we can do the source reduction, that we can start reducing the use of these waste or the things which are causing these soil pollution, like plastic is the major cause. Third, we can burning of the waste. First one is the incineration, which is the aerobic combustion, and at 850 degrees Celsius and 1000 degrees Celsius. Pyrolysis, which is the anaerobic combustion, at 1650 degrees Celsius. You can burn this waste. And there's a dumping or the landfilling, which is a piling of the waste on a selected low-lying land. This is a land. You can see that there's a piling of waste on the selected low land. This is what we call dumping or the landfilling. Next one is a case study regarding the solid waste. So there's a person named Ahmed Khan. So Ahmed Khan, he uses polyblend and bitumen. Bitumen is the material which is used to make road. So he mixed the polyblend, and polyblend is a fine powder of the recycled modified plastic. So he mixed polyblend and the bitumen, and he used the mixture to make the road. He observed that the bitumen, because it is mixed with the polyblend, so the water repellent properties of the bitumen has enhanced, and it has also increased the life of the road by the factor of 3. That means triple. You can see this is a road which is made up of plastic. So the plastic, they can be used to make roads. And this initiative was taken by the Ahmed Khan. Next one is the agrochemical and their effects. In the wake of Green Revolution, the use of inorganic fertilizer, pesticides has increased manifold for enhancing the crop production. Yes, we have studied this when I told you about the Green Revolution, that in Green Revolution, a large amount of agrochemicals are used to increase the production of the crops, especially wheat and rice. And these agrochemicals, they are very harmful. They causes the soil pollution, they also causes the water pollution, and they're even harmful for the human health. So the pesticides, herbicide, fungicide, they are increasingly used. And these chemicals, they are harmful for the environment, because these chemicals, they can accelerate eutrophication, which is the aging of the water bodies. They will accelerate the aging of the water bodies. Instead of agrochemicals, we should use biofertilizers. We can perform organic farming, which is an eco-friendly farming. Next one is the radioactive waste. It is a physical pollution of the air, water, soil with the radioactive waste, and it's a very harmful waste. Initially, nuclear energy was a non-polluting way for generating the electricity, but later it was realized that the use of nuclear energy has a two serious inherent problem. Number one is the accidental leakage, which occurred at the 3 Mile Island and the Chernobyl incident. These nuclear radiation, they are very harmful for the environment and as well as for the population, because these nuclear radiation, they can cause mutation at a faster rate, and we know that the mutation, they can be inherited from the parents to the progeny. So these mutation can be seen for several generations, and these nuclear radiation, they also cause various disorders. And second problem is there is the safe disposal of the radioactive waste. So it was recommended that the storage of the nuclear waste should be done after the sufficient pre-treatment. That means before storing these nuclear wastes, it should be sufficiently pre-treated, like proper treatment should be given to these nuclear waste before it is stored. And for storage, they should be stored in a shielded container and buried within the rocks about 500 meters deep below the Earth's surface, because they are very harmful. Next, we are going to discuss is the greenhouse effect. So greenhouse is a phenomena. For example, in winter, the people, they use glass house. We know that in winter, there's a very low temperature and the crop production, they reduces because of the low temperature. So the winter crops, they are generally, in some place, they are grown in a glass house. So when the light fall on the glass house, these glasses, they trap the light energy. And when they trap the light energy, the temperature inside the glass house increases as compared to outside. Outside there's a low temperature, but inner the temperature is still warmer than as compared to outside. So the crops which are growing in these glass house, they can easily grow and the production is also increases. So this is phenomena. This phenomena is known as a greenhouse. Okay, so our Earth, it shows a natural greenhouse effect. You can see that the greenhouse effect is a naturally occurring phenomena that is responsible for heating the Earth's surface and the atmosphere. If the greenhouse effect does not take place, then the Earth temperature would reach to minus 18 degrees Celsius rather than the present average of 15 degrees Celsius. Okay, so some amount of greenhouse effect should be there. Otherwise, the temperature of the Earth would be minus 18 degrees Celsius, can reach to minus 18 degrees Celsius, which is extremely low. But this natural greenhouse effect is disturbed due to the human activities. And the major gases of the greenhouse are the carbon dioxide and methane. Remember this, the major greenhouse gases, they are carbon dioxide and methane. Now look at the image. Sun is the source of energy that we all know. The radiations, they are coming from the sun. So only the 50% or about half of the solar radiation is absorbed by the Earth's surface. That means 50%. 25% they are reflect from the atmosphere. 25% they are reflect from the earth. So the infrared radiation, they are emitted from the earth's surface. And some of the infrared radiation, they passes through the atmosphere, but most is absorbed and they are re-emitted. You can see that they are re-emitted by the greenhouse gases and the cloud. And this effect causes the warming of the earth's surface and the lower atmosphere. This is what we call greenhouse effect. But as because the temperature is increasing, it leads to a global warming, because as the temperature is increasing, the glaciers are melting, the sea level is increasing. So it ultimately leads to the global warming. And there's a Kyoto Protocol. Remember this protocol. The Kyoto Protocol is a protocol which is signed between the different countries to reduce the emission of the greenhouse gases. Okay? Remember this. Next, we are going to discuss the ozone. So, there are two types of ozone are present. There's a bad ozone and there's a good ozone. Bad ozone is present in the troposphere. Good ozone is present in the stratosphere. Bad ozone, it acts as a pollutant. And the good ozone, it protects us from the UV radiation, because we know these UV radiation, they are very harmful. They can damage the DNA, they can damage the protein, because these UV radiation, they can break the chemical bonds between the DNA and the protein. So they are very harmful. They can cause skin cancer. Even the UV radiation B, they can cause the inflammation of the cornea, and the disease is known as snow blindness. And the unit, the thickness of the ozone is measured in the Dobson unit. It's important. Remember this. The thickness of the ozone is measured in the Dobson unit. And in the stratosphere, the ozone production is also taking place and ozone degradation is also taking place. But there's a balance. Okay? But this balance is disturbed due to the production or the increase of the chlorofluorocarbon, which is the CFC. These are the ozone depleting substances. These chlorofluorocarbons, they are used as they are used in refrigerators. And these chlorofluorocarbons, they are released into the troposphere, which is the lower atmosphere, and they are reaching to the stratosphere. Once they reach the stratosphere, UV radiations act on it and they form now you can see this chlorine. This chlorine has it's a free radical, and we know that the free radicals, they are highly reactive, right? Now this chlorine will react with the molecule of ozone. And this is a nascent oxygen, the molecular oxygen, which is released. Now this will act on the other ozone molecule. So this chlorine, now you can see, again, here also chlorine, here also chlorine. This chlorine is acting as a catalyst. So one molecule or one chlorine can destroy 500 molecules of the ozone. Okay, so this chlorine is very harmful. I hope it is clear. You can see this. This CFC, the UV radiation is act on it forming CFCl3 and then Cl, which is acting as a catalyst. The Cl is acting as the catalyst. The Cl will act on the other molecule of the, it will act on the molecule of the oxygen. It will act on the O3, which is a ozone, and it will break the ozone, and the nascent of the molecular form of oxygen is released. Again, this ClO will react with another molecule of the ozone, and it will form the chlorine plus the molecular oxygen. Again, the molecular oxygen will be released. And this chlorine, they will act as a catalyst. They are in every reaction, they are acting as a catalyst. So this resulted in the formation of a large area of the thin ozone layer, which is commonly known as ozone hole. Okay, and there's a Montreal Protocol. Montreal Protocol is a meeting between the different countries where the measures were taken to reduce the emission of the ozone depleting substances. Okay, so to control the emission. Remember that the Kyoto Protocol is for reduce or control the emission of the greenhouse gases. Montreal Protocol is to control the emission of the ozone depleting substance. Remember this difference. It's important, okay? Next, we are going to discuss is the deforestation. So deforestation is the conversion of the forest areas to the non-forested. 40% of the forest has been lost in the tropics and 1% in the temperate region. At the beginning of the 20th century, the forest cover is 30%, and the end of the century, it has shrunk to 21.74%. Whereas, remember this, that the National Forest Policy in 1988 of India has recommended 33% of the forest cover for plains and 67% for hills. Remember this, okay? It's important. And the reason of deforestation, that's agriculture and urbanization. Trees they are cutting for timber, firewood, for cattle ranching, and jhum cultivation. Jhum cultivation is the slash and the burnt cultivation, where the farmers, they cut the trees from the forest and they burnt the remains of the plants. Now the ash is left. Now these farmers, they move to the another place for cultivation. So jhum cultivation is also lead to deforestation. And because of the deforestation, the habitat is lost, biodiversity is getting decreases, a loss of biodiversity occur due to deforestation. It's leading to desertification. As we are cutting down the trees, the soil erosion is also increases because the trees, the roots of the tree, they help in holding the soil particles. So if you cut the trees, that means the soil erosion will also increases. Now, there are certain case study of the people participation in the conservation of the forest. So in Rajasthan, in Jodhpur, in Rajasthan, there's a king, and the king because the king want to construct a new palace, so he ordered his minister to go and get the wood from the forest. So the ministers with the men of the king, they went to the forest to cut down the trees. But in the forest, there's a community live, which is the Bishnoi community. And the people of this community, they are environment loving. They are known for their coexistence or the peaceful coexistence with the environment. So when these people of these community, they hug the trees because they don't want the trees to be cut. But the ministers or the men of the king, they did not listen to the people of the Bishnoi community, and they cut the trees along with the people of the Bishnoi community. So many people, they died, they lost their life for saving the environment. So the government, they have recently instituted, there's a Amrita Devi Bishnoi Wildlife Protection Award for the individual or the community from the rural areas that have shown the courage and dedication in protecting the wildlife. Remember this, that the Amrita Devi Bishnoi Wildlife Protection Award are given to the people which show courage and dedication in protecting the wildlife. Okay, it's important. Second one is the Chipko movement, which occur in Garhwal Himalayas, where the local women, they also took the initiative to protect the trees from the axes of the contractors. So the Chipko movement, it occurs in Garhwal of Himalayas. And the third one is the joint forest management, which occur in 1980. Remember this year, it's important. Okay, so joint forest management occurs in 1980. So it's the government of India along with the people of the local communities, they come together for protecting and managing the forest. So these are the three case studies of the people participation in the conservation of the forest. Okay. So in this chapter, remember the acts, the year. Remember the scrubber. Remember scrubber and electrostatic precipitator. How they work and how they remove the or clean the air, how they remove the pollutant and clean the air. Biomagnification. Eutrophication. Ozone. Greenhouse effect. And the case study. Of people participation in conservation of forests. It's important, okay? Remember this. In the case study, remember the year. And remember this Amrita Devi Bishnoi Wildlife Protection Award, Chipko movement, and the joint forest management, okay? It's important. Now we are moving with the question number 1. Question 1 says the thickness of the ozone in a column of air from the ground to the top of the atmosphere is measured in terms of 1 Sedberg unit, monomeric unit, Dobson unit, and Dalton's unit. Quickly answer what you think, what will be the correct option. Those who are connecting with YouTube, they can answer through chat. YouTube chat. Very good, Veena. Very good, MS Gauri. Very good, Ritu. Yes, the thickness of ozone is measured in Dobson unit. Remember this. So the correct option is 3, which is Dobson unit. Second is Montreal Protocol was signed in 1987 for control of 1 disposal of e-waste, transport of genetically modified organism from one country to another. Third one is emission of ozone depleting substances. Fourth is release of greenhouse gases. I told you that Montreal Protocol is important. Okay, remember the Montreal Protocol, Kyoto Protocol is important. Montreal is a place in Canada. Kyoto is a place in Japan. Very good, MS Gauri. Very good, Veena. Very good, Ritu. Dhruvi, what do you think? What will be the correct option? The Montreal Protocol was signed in 1987 for control of emission of ozone depleting substance. Remember, this is important. And Kyoto Protocol is to control the emission of the greenhouse gases, or to reduce the production of the greenhouse gases. Remember this. Next is the which of the following statement about ozone is correct? One is tropospheric ozone protect us from UV radiation. Second is stratospheric ozone is bad. Third one is tropospheric ozone is good. Fourth one is stratospheric ozone protect us from UV radiation. Very good, Gauri. Very good, Veena. Ozone, there are two types. There's a bad ozone, there's a good ozone. Bad ozone is present in troposphere. Good ozone in stratosphere. Good ozone protect us from UV radiation. Can anybody tell me that UV rays, they are physical mutagen, chemical mutagen, or biological mutagen? Quickly answer me through chat. Very good, Ritu. I told you when we were discussing the mutation. UV rays are, quickly answer me through chat. Are they physical mutagen or chemical mutagen? Remember that the UV rays, they are physical mutagen. Now the question is asking which of the following ozone is, which of the following statement about ozone is correct? So troposphere ozone protect us from UV radiation. No, it is a stratospheric ozone which protect us from UV radiation. Stratospheric ozone is bad. No, it is good. Tropospheric ozone is good. No, it is bad. Fourth one is stratospheric ozone protect us from UV radiation. Absolutely correct. So the correct option is fourth. I want to tell you one more thing. Because we are running of time and it's important, I want to tell you that there's two type of smog. Okay, there's a classical smog and the photochemical smog. Classical smog is also known as London smog. Photochemical smog is also known as Los Angeles smog. Classical smog, they mostly consist of sulfur oxides. Photochemical smog, they consist of generally nitric oxides. Classical smog is also known as reducing smog because it contains a reducing mixture. Photochemical smog, they're also known as oxidizing smog because they contain oxidizing mixture. In photochemical smog, you will observe PAN, which is a peroxyacetyl nitrate. And these PAN, they are formed by the photochemical oxidation of the nitric oxides. Remember these important points, okay, about smog. And this differences. These are important, okay? Because many times the question regarding this classical smog and the photochemical smog has come in the exam. They might ask you in a mismatch question, and they can ask you in a direct question, okay? Next question is, which one of the following pair of gases is mainly responsible for the greenhouse effect? Number one is the ozone and ammonia. Number two is oxygen and nitrogen. Third is nitrogen, sulfur dioxide. Fourth is carbon dioxide and methane. Which of the following pair of gases is mainly responsible for the greenhouse effect? I told you when we were discussing the greenhouse. Very good, Gauri. Very good, Veena. It's carbon dioxide and methane. Remember this, these are important, okay? Now it's already one. We are winding up the class. Thank you all for your participation. I hope this lecture was informative for you. Thank you all. See you in the next class and have a nice day.